Hi everyone, I'm Alex. I will be talking a little bit about myself later on in the talk and who I am and what I do. But yeah, I thought it'd just be worthwhile having a very quick sort of introduction into what and who Lyst is. So we are a global shopping platform. We have the world's fashion in one place for fashion shoppers to search for items, browse content, and buy from. And our mission is to create the category leader that the world's fashion lovers use to decide what to buy. So we're on desktop, mobile web, and we have an application as well that we are continuously developing to create a really personalized experience for our users. And today we're just going to hear from different people in our product org who work in different roles throughout the business to help us sort of deliver on this mission. So yeah, I hope you find it interesting. I'm really looking forward to hearing your questions later on as well. Thank you. Okay, so if we start with Milena in product analysis.
Yeah. Hi all. My name is Milena and I'm a senior technical product analyst at Lyst. So yeah, I will quickly share a few facts about me. So I'm from Bulgaria and I came to the UK about 2 years ago. I hold bachelor's degree in marketing and strategic planning. There will be a little bit more on that later. Some of the things that I like to do in my spare time are reading and collecting quotes. So if you have some favorites, you can just drop them in the chat or like send them through later. I'll be very happy to see. Also, yeah, I love traveling, spending time in nature, hiking, watching tennis, and like a funny kind of wild dream of mine is to learn all languages which are spoken around the world, which I know is kind of difficult, but I'm slowly, very, very slowly getting there. So yeah, that is about me. Now a little bit about what I do. Yeah, so in a nutshell, I analyze data and the ways we handle it so that quality can be ensured and we can provide insights to our team who can in turn use these insights to provide better and more efficient solutions. Yeah, so what this entails is basically whenever we have some solution, let's say what we do in our team, one of the things we do in our team is categorization, which is basically if we have an item coming on the site, we want to know, is this a dress, is this a shoe? And this is done with the help of machine learning algorithms. So what we do is basically analyze the quality of how they perform. And if there is something that we notice can be improved, we can feed back to the team. So that's one side of it. Or let's say if we haven't still produced this solution, we can analyze beforehand to provide insights to the team so they can be informed and better know how to build it. So that is a big part of our day-to-day. So this really helps with decision making. So the team would know what is important to include in some of these solutions. Like, for example, they would know if a certain keyword is good to track, or is it ambiguous? Is it going to be confusing for models and so on? And another big part of the role is that we help discover in case something is wrong or like it doesn't work as expected. We just go digging and see what's causing it and try to help solve this problem so that everything works okay for our users. Yeah, the next one. So what are the skills that actually help me to deliver on what I've just shared? I think one of the most important ones, and that's probably in every role, to be honest, is communication. Basically, once we discover insights, we have to somehow feedback them, we have to share them, and we have to get the discussion going. So that's very important. Analytical thinking. So this I've seen all over job advertisements, and I thought kind of that maybe has to do more with maths at first, I thought before, but then it's just like, you just have to think, if this happens, what will be the impact, or if we do that, is that actually the best thing to do, and so on. It's really yeah, trying to understand the bigger picture and see some of the small details. But I would say what really helps analytical thinking is actually curiosity and just trying to see how everything works and trying to get to why it works this way and how it can be improved. And these are really important qualities, but I think the one thing that really helped me excel in what I do is that I'm actually passionate about it. And I think this really is the most important one, which really makes all the other qualities much easier to demonstrate. So yeah, we can go to the next one. So a little bit about how I got to the role which I have now. So yeah, while I was studying, I was working in hospitality, and once I graduated, I've started some internships. So with my degree in marketing, I was like, oh, I want to work in digital marketing. Really, that's like the new hot thing, at least back then and back in Bulgaria. And I thought that's super nice. So I started one internship, which was more in marketing than digital marketing. So that's why I got another one, which was purely digital marketing. And I was like, yeah, there is all this like stuff that I can try, like experiment with different copy, with different images and see how that works. But once I actually started doing it, I saw this is not really for me. So I think I just wanted to see the bigger picture and how this connects to the overall strategy the company is doing. So yeah, just I didn't have this one. So I was like, maybe I should go back to really more marketing and more strategic planning, which is part of my degree, like marketing strategy. So that's why I also went on internship in the Netherlands, which was very interesting. And I loved Amsterdam. This is where I was staying for half a year, and I was trying to find ways to stay there and find a job, but that was pretty difficult without speaking Dutch as a junior. And at the same time, a friend of mine has moved to the UK, and she was like, why don't you come here? And I was like, okay, why not? Let's give it a go. So I just moved to the UK very shortly after I finished my internship in the Netherlands. And what happened is that I've just come to the UK. I have only internship experience, so it was not the most straightforward thing to get a job in data, which in the meantime I've discovered is something amazing that interests me a lot. So I've been in this time, there was a turning point in my career journey, which I will share a bit later. But yeah, basically this is when I understood about many roles in data that I have never ever heard of, and got really interested in data analysis, data science. So this is how I ended up becoming a data research associate here in the UK. This is for startup, like hospitality startup, and then I came to Lyst. Where, since joining, I've been promoted to senior technical product analyst, and I am actually on the path, I'm being trained to become data scientist. So that's very exciting for me. And yeah, the next one. So yeah, I think the most important thing that I really want to share here, and I know it's put under number 0, and this is for 2 reasons, is because most of the time it's completely invisible. People overlook it, and they're just like, you know, if you want a job, just keep applying, like don't stop applying. That's the way you get a job. And I think it is not seen, but it is like the most fundamental thing is like to really figure out what you want, because this is what I was doing. I've been applying to jobs all the time, but when I wasn't really sure what I want to do and what I was passionate about, this first of all can show through in interviews and so on, and second time less excited about the role I apply for. So I think really figuring out your interests and like what you're good at, your passions, that was a game changer, at least for me. And from then on, of course, you have to begin and you do need to apply. And what helped me is have some milestones. I had a plan. I started looking for mentors on LinkedIn. I was just contacting people with the role that I wanted to go to. Also, I have attended codebar workshops. to learn some programming for further going into data science, and some SQL for data analysis, and use some other free resources to learn. And I can not recommend them enough. I've also met some great people through these platforms, and this has been like amazing. Then I also have a mentor at Lyst who helps me with data science. And yeah, I think also another very important thing is don't be afraid to try things out, because that's how you learn. And yeah, I think that's me.
Milena, that was amazing. Thank you so much for kicking us off. Hello, everyone. My name is Lara. I am an associate technical product analyst working in the same team as Milena is. So I'm not going to speak too much about the ins and outs of the role because she covered that, but just a bit of other stuff. So about me, I am a Belgian American living in London. I was born in Belgium, but I moved to America with my family. My mom got transferred. So the accent is very, very real. So yeah, you'd think I'm American. Grew up near New York in New Jersey. I went to undergrad university in LA and then did my master's in London because I studied abroad here and absolutely fell in love with it. So I had the EU passport, so I was allowed to stay. So thankful for that. And I worked in a plethora of industries before I even kind of considered data and tech. And I'm so happy that I ended up here. But all these industries, retail, corporate fashion, I actually did HR, global manufacturing and sourcing, buying and merchandising. I worked in finance, actually as an analyst. So I knew I liked the idea of doing strategic thinking and kind of creative meets corporate in what analysis is through actually the finance internship. And I could not tell you how a stock works. I know nothing about finance, but that job eventually led me to analysis. So that is something that really powered my decision to apply to the role that I'm at now at Lyst. So really thankful for that. So even though I'm not doing really any of these, I'm very much ended up where I'm meant to be now as a result of them. So really grateful for all these different experiences. And I'm a fashion and football enthusiast. You could ask me just about anything about either of those things and I would have an answer for you. Love it. The Euros, I mean, I watched basically every game that was after work and on weekends. It was so amazing. So yeah, just a bit about me, fun facts. So how I got to where I am. My dream job was, kind of still is to be a talk show host. I really want to do it. I'm so lucky that at Lyst, I'm on the social committee and I get to host Who Am I tea breaks. So I interview people in other roles and ask them about their personal lives and stuff, which I love. But I did courses in broadcast journalism, politics, and it was only actually in high school I got an internship at Ralph Lauren. Really luckily, to be honest with you, through a connection. So just a shout out to networking. It is so much about that. And I realized that for the longest time when I was a teenager, I thought that the fashion world was basically retail and designers. And so that internship kind of showed me there's a whole industry with just about every kind of thinker under the sun that is powering it. And I didn't realize that. And so was really lucky to do a few internships at Ralph Lauren. And then I went to UCLA. They didn't have a fashion uni. They didn't have a fashion course or anything. So I actually did geopolitics, because I chose the uni over the actual course, which I don't regret, but because at the time I was considering it. But yeah, it definitely made me a better citizen, so no regrets. But then by the end of that, I did realize that I wanted to go into fashion. So ended up still doing the master's in what I really wanted to do the whole time. So funny enough, but we end up where we're meant to eventually. And I did my master's in luxury brand management. And during that master's, I was actually had a workshop on Lyst, and our professor was basically talking us through the Lyst index, which is one of the editorial pieces we do quarterly at Lyst. And I said, the team that puts this together, like this company is so cool because they have all this search data. How do they, like, they must use this data for the coolest things. And so it was on the top of my radar when I graduated. And I'm so lucky that I applied to some roles and got this position because it was definitely like the dream job for me. I knew I wanted to do something in fashion and something with data. And I had such an obsession with trends and consumer insights and kind of how that would work. So I'm at such a good place right now, and I'm in the perfect team to learn. And I'm so lucky that I got here. And I'm so thankful. So about my role, I work with data all day, every day, and I love it. So I basically, in a nutshell, I enrich the product data that we have in order for it to be utilized by the whole business. So for an example, one thing that we do is sizing. We get about so many sizes every single day on every single product. And I basically take those sizes and make them usable for the business to use on our app and on the website, so that it's not jumbled up in all the retailer formats, but rather the list format. So that's something that we do. And we do that through AI as well, teaching these machine learnings and working directly with the engineers. Providing actionable insights based on research and deep dive. So that's kind of the discovery piece that Milena spoke about in terms of strategic thinking and kind of making plans for the business to use. And then also providing business strategy and fashion related knowledge to engineers. So people that aren't as familiar with the topics that they're necessarily doing the implementation and the code on, and helping them with my knowledge in order to achieve our goals. So what I love about my role, I kind of spoke a bit about this. I love the collaboration within the team. I think it is, you don't like, as somebody that's a product person, a fashion person, to get to work with engineers. I'm constantly talking to Kat and Milena and Daniel. And I'm so lucky that, like, even today we had a meeting where we had to figure out a methodology for something, and we needed all three of our minds to come up with the methodology. And the methodology is very much a hybrid of all three of our opinions and ideas. So I love the collaboration. It's such a good place to learn. Milena is currently teaching me SQL. We're doing a class club, which is really fun. She's my professor. So there's always learning when you're working with these brilliant people, all these different thinkers, that everyone has a different perspective on something, and everyone's so humble and ready to hear others' ideas. And just like making strategic decisions that I feel like really impact the business. And I feel like what I do and all the research and analysis that I'm doing, at the end of the day, it's really people are using it to implement things that are so influential on a larger scale. So I love the impact that I have. So I'm really lucky and I love it. And now on to product management with Laura.
Hey, hi everyone. Just to confuse you, another Laura from America. So I am the senior manager of customer marketing here at Lyst, and yeah, excited to be chatting with you all today. Next slide, please. Thanks. Just some fun facts about me. Again, another American, but with some fairly recent ancestry that can be traced back to other places. So I like to think I'm partially European as well. I'm from California originally, but I have lived in London now for the past year or so. It's a bit hotter than I expected, especially this week. And I love to travel. I also love art. I was an art history major at university and really always thought of myself as more of sort of a creative thinker until I started working in the technology industry. And also, I am notorious for picking new hobbies. My latest has been using this product called SketchUp, which is like a 3D modeling product. And yeah, that's helped me keep going through the various lockdowns that we've had here in London. And then just as a last fun fact here, I worked at 4 different internships before landing my first full-time job. And so, yeah, like a lot of people have been saying, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And it took me quite a while to find my path. Next slide, please. So what do I do? It's a good question. At a high level, I manage the Lyst member experience through our re-engagement marketing channels. And right now, this is primarily through email marketing and push notifications. And so my job is really to communicate Lyst's value to our members so that they are repeatedly coming back and using our app for discovery and for shopping. Next slide. And then for just a bit more detail, my responsibility is really to understand what is the product team's goal, and then what do we need to build and execute on for the strategy that helps to kind of drive these goals. So to give an example, the product team recently just launched like a new feature in the app where you can save a list, which can be like editorial content that you see in the home screen. And they obviously want to drive more members to do that because they believe that members will find value in this feature, which means that more members will retain and come back to the app in the long term. So my job is basically to figure out, okay, how do we make sure that members, first of all, know about this new feature? And then second of all, like, how do we get them back into the app and using it repeatedly? So the way that I go about doing this is by developing hypotheses. So for example, maybe we believe sending members a push notification that tells them, okay, now you can save lists by tapping the heart next to, you know, the content that you want to save. Maybe that will make them do it more. And so I'll design an experiment that tries to basically prove that theory. And then my team and I will sort of build it and set that experiment up. And then once we've run the experiment, so let's say we're sending like 50% of members this push notification, which is the test group, and then 50% are receiving nothing, which is the control group. We're then measuring success by determining if members who receive the push in the test group actually ended up doing that action more often. And then if they did, we decide, okay, triggering this push notification works pretty well. So we should probably be sending it to everyone, not just the 50%. So that's like one example. Hopefully it kind of illustrates the cycle of what I do within my role. And next slide, please. So what do I love about my role? I love that it affords me kind of ownership of my area. So when I can get other team members like really excited about an experiment that we're running, that's super fulfilling for me. I also love being organized and all the project management aspects of my role. It makes me feel very productive. And then I love sort of the creative aspects of my job. Marketing in general, which is what my background has been kind of my whole career leading up to Lyst, is really something that I love. And then also just communication, working with other team members, and also working amongst many other teams within Lyst. So my journey, I mentioned I started out interning right after I graduated. I did that for a full year. And then my next position was kind of in sales and marketing. From there, I got really into email marketing in particular and learned how to write like HTML and CSS and some scripting languages for emails specifically. And then at Salesforce, I was kind of like a marketing consultant. So I was working with other clients to build like email newsletters for them and then set up experimentation for them and launch it. And then I kind of did a similar thing at Lyst, but then really started to work more within sort of the lifecycle journeys for marketing and building out more experimentation. And then it kind of developed into more of a strategic role at Lyft. And now I'm at Lyst doing kind of a similar role, but this is also my first role within product marketing or product management. So I've never really had to work within Jira before or manage, you know, what engineers are kind of working on from day to day. So that aspect I've really quite enjoyed. And then how did I get here? Sorry, next slide, please. Yeah, so I worked hard. I think especially when you're first starting out, you know, like I had zero skills. So I think demonstrating a good work ethic is really what helps you to kind of stand out amongst, you know, other candidates for a position. Every role that I had, I made a ton of connections, and almost every job that I've had, I was referred to that position by a colleague. So I think it's super important that making those connections and networking, you know, in every role that you have. And then I've also, every job I've had to learn a ton of new skills. I think having that growth mindset means that you're more flexible, and that's almost more attractive to a recruiter than someone who maybe is like a total expert, but has no interest in developing new skills or kind of working outside of their comfort zone. Mentors, I had really great mentors. I highly recommend finding those people that you trust and that you can learn from throughout your career. It's definitely how I was able to excel. And then negotiating, it's like so important. It was really hard for me to learn, but you definitely have to practice the skill and use it in order to kind of progress in your career. And that's me.
Hi everyone, my name is Kat and I'm Senior Technical Product Manager at Lyst. Maybe some fun facts about me at first. So I'm originally from Poland. I moved to the UK over 9 years ago. I love London and I fell in love in London when I came for the first time as a student, you know, to work, to like have some new experiences and first of all to polish my English. And I studied art history and Balkan and Slavic languages. As you can see, it has like nothing to do with tech really. I used to play basketball because I'm tall, but these days I only love those things that I love. So I just do yoga and meditation. I'm really passionate about natural medicine and aromatherapy and plant-based diet. I love traveling. I'm a high-end fashion bargain hunter. That means Lyst is a perfect place for me. And lastly, I never thought I would end up working in tech, but I'm really glad I did because I love it. So what do I do? In a nutshell, I create and deliver the product strategy for 2 technical teams at Lyst, and we're responsible for product catalog and product data pipeline and building artificial intelligence models and products to create more value out of existing data sets that we have. In terms of like my area of responsibility, so some of the most important things that I do is creating product vision, first of all. So this is the long-term outcome that we aim to deliver within the product as teams, and then creating product strategy and align the strategy with company's objectives. So the strategy is like very, very important here because it turns the vision into actions, and so then we can take it and achieve those long-term goals. And I obviously work with many leaders across the company to determine the right direction for the teams to move in. At the same time, of course, I work very closely with the team to determine what is possible at all. Then I transform this strategy into roadmaps, which is like, roadmap is a plan of action that outlines the vision, direction, priorities, and progress of a product over time. And it's a teamwork very much because, again, I work closely with the tribe squad technical leads to make this happen. I also very hands-on. I run lots of discoveries and analyses. I work very closely together with Milena and Lara. Discoveries are iterative process required to determine if and why a product should be developed. And if yes, then we need to deeply understand the problem and validate ideas for the solutions before we start development. It is also, in my role, it's crucial to understand the product development lifecycle with all the stages, all the key events in the life of the product, from design throughout the implementation and then maintenance later. And on a day-to-day basis, I work closely with the teams and actively participate in all our agile ceremonies because that's the framework that we follow, like stand-ups, refinement, planning, retrospective sessions, and I also manage the product backlog. Another important part of my role, I would say, is to liaise with stakeholders, to gather their requirements, understand their needs, and manage and prioritize their expectations, and obviously communicate with leadership across the company to just keep them up to date on the progress we're making. Next slide, please. So when it comes to some of the transferable things that really matter in this role, I would say that being passionate about the data and having keen interest in technology, because like without it, like it's, I would say, impossible. It's important to be people's person, a team player, great communicator, like simply love people. Also being inclusive and open-minded, because this role involves working with a broad range of people from very diverse backgrounds. Being a natural problem solver, being curious, enjoy working with big complexities, it's a must. It's important to have ability to create structure out of a structure, because that's very often the case, and can-do attitude, like nothing is impossible. Being passionate and driven, to inspire people and get them excited about the products they're working on, about the work they're doing. And also agile mindset, because like agile is a philosophy really, and it is a state of mind. It's all about like learning, adapting, changing, and trust and collaboration. So I'm very passionate about this. And speaking about my journey, and if you can learn anything from my experience, I would say don't let anyone tell you what you are good at, and follow your heart and discover it yourself. And this is because, so that's like my career on one slide, basically. And I mentioned school here, because at school I was always told by my teachers, like even by my parents, that because I was good at history, geography, languages, like literature, then but I was bad at maths. Let's be honest, I was bad at maths. So I was always told like, you need to study some like humanities, because you cannot have anything to do with like finance, technology, anything that has something to do with maths, with numbers. Like you're not good at it. You shouldn't be even considering. So I thought like, yes, fine. So I guess I will just pick something else. So I studied art history and languages, because that's what I'm passionate about. But that wasn't necessarily maybe that something that I wanted to do going forward, although I didn't really have a good idea. So after graduating from uni, I just landed a job at like a company that was global steel supplier, and I just worked there as account manager using my languages. Like I work with Balkan markets, but I didn't enjoy that job very much. And at the same around that time, I met during like a job fair for graduates, and like I was approached by a company that was financial services provider, and they offered me a job of like market data analyst. And I said at first, like, no way, that this is finance. I cannot really do this because I'm not good at maths. I don't have the skills. I don't have that type of brain. I cannot really do this. And they said like, listen, we are really interested in your languages because we need someone to work on those markets. So it will be easier for us to teach someone who knows the languages market analysis rather than the other way around. So I thought like, okay, I'll give it a go, but probably I will fail. So I did give it a go. I accepted the role. And it turned out that I learned very quickly, and I forgot about my fear of not being good at maths. And that was like a milestone for me, really, because that wasn't tech, I would say, tech environment, but it was very, very strict data environment. It was tough, but on the other hand, it taught me really good practices when it comes to data. I started really loving data there, so that was like a starting point for me. And at that moment, I really knew I wanted to work with data, and that was all in Poland. So then I moved to London. I did some of the some contracts, like sales data analyst, marketing product analyst. As you can see, I have like lots of analyst positions in my career, and all of them like were like super valuable. But some of them, those that I marked blue, were particularly impactful, and they really led me to where I am now. So the groundbreaking one was a technical support analyst, and the company was like internet services provider. And that was important because this was like very technical position. So I was working with DNS. And at first, again, like I was a bit terrified that I wouldn't like manage like to learn like everything that was required, but I actually done very well. So that like opened me up to like new opportunities in tech. And at that point, I just knew that this was like the right direction. Another one, another job that was like super impactful for me was business process analyst. So that was a role, again, in a big corporation. And it was purely technical environment. It was purely technical environment. I was owning areas of transactions, pipeline for the whole Europe, monitoring performance and data health dashboards and automated processes. And I must say here that when I got this role and started the job, and I met my colleagues, I learned that all of them like studied maths and they like studied like, you know, all the subjects I had no idea about. I immediately thought that there is like no way I can do like the same job as them. And I felt like it felt very, very intimidating, but again, it turned out that I could. And my next job within the same company was senior business analyst. And that was actually my very first PM role. It wasn't like strictly PM, I would say, because that was waterfall. If you're familiar with that project management methodology, so that's like very different from agile. But at this point, like I realized that I love the role and I love what I was doing, but I wanted to move further in my career. And I really wanted to work with agile environment, but the problem was that I was reading and studying like agile manifesto. I was reading lots of books and articles, and I couldn't put it into practice. I simply wasn't able to apply it because I didn't really understand that. And my friend, who is like agile evangelist, just offered me that we could do like exercise together. So he just explained me that it was just common sense. So at the time, like I was going to friend's wedding, and obviously that was like a bigger project, like, you know, from like everyday life. So I turned that wedding trip really into agile project, and we set up like stand-ups and all other ceremonies. We had Trello board, and we did that exercise for like a few days until it was done. And after that, I really understood what agile was about. I was able to go to work and apply those new principles to what I was doing to a certain extent. And after that, I was ready to apply for like a proper role in agile environment. And that's what moved me to another company when I became a product owner. And then I joined Lyst. And I couldn't be happier about it because it's fashion and tech. So as you can see here, I work in so many industries, but it's the first time when the product is so close to my heart because I love fashion, I love shopping, I love tech, I love data. So I have it all now. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Megan, SEO product manager at Lyst. Super excited. Some fun facts about me. So I'm a born and bred Londoner. My hobbies and interests are like food, mostly eating, travel and fashion. And I really, really love shoes. I'm really into visiting international carnivals. So I've seen a few celebrities and been to a few different Caribbean islands. True crime is my thing on Netflix. And prior to working Lyst, I was a digital marketing specializing in technical SEO. So what do I do in my current role? So I currently lead SEO and user experience initiatives on the feed pages. So I work across 2 teams, which basically means I focus on the problems that we're trying to solve and then work with the team to build an appropriate solution. And so here's like a word cloud of some key skills that are really important to my role. So similar to Kat and Laura, a lot of planning, strategy, communication, goal setting, analysis. A few that I find, I would say, are kind of the biggest are delivery. So it's definitely important in my role to make sure that the projects get done on time and in an efficient manage in an efficient time process, and also analysis. So you don't currently have an analyst on my team, so I often do a lot of the work myself. And also prioritizing. So there's always loads of things and loads of ideas, and it's really important to make sure that we focus on what's really going to drive value and impact for the business. And so here's my journey. So I'm actually the 3rd person in this chat to have studied art history. So I initially wanted to work in fashion journalism, PR. So it was like a natural thing to do humanities and something very creative. So when I graduated, my first role was a generalist marketing. I really thought like social media and content writing would be of interest. But then I realized I preferred analytics. It was something that really inspired me when I would make a change and launch a campaign and see, oh, this did really well. And then you see the numbers go up. And so from there, I moved into a digital marketing role. So this was within e-commerce. So not quite as big as Lyst, but it was my first time in e-commerce and I learned Excel. So I just want to flag that as really early on in my career, I learned to use Excel, and it's something that I still use all the time today. And then following on from that role, I worked as an SEO analyst. And I remember I knew nothing about what SEO really entails. And I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be like another fun little job doing like keywords. But it was my first time working in a tech company, and I learned SQL. I learned to work with developers, working in like a Scrum environment. So that really, really helped me with my role at Lyst today. and yeah, where I am as an SEO product manager. So one thing I really wanted to highlight was the transition into product. So coming from a marketing background, I didn't know what a product manager was until about 3 years ago, and then ended up working with a lot of PMs. So I got to know more about what they do in their day-to-day roles, who they work with. I got an idea of the skills required, and it really interested me. So on my sort of journey into becoming a PM, I thought about what skills I already had. So working technical SEO, you're already working with websites, working very closely with developers, and a lot of the core skills that I use today in my role, I developed just as an SEO analyst. And then on applying to Lyst, I really highlighted my subject of expertise. So I'm an SEO PM, so that's like the main product that I look after. So it was highlighting everything that was transferable, soft skills, technical skills, and then that's what landed me in my role at Lyst. And then here are just some 5 things on learning and development. So learning from my peers was probably the main one. As I mentioned in my previous role, I first learned about product management from working with PMs. And that's how I developed a lot of my key skills informally learning from peers. Same with Excel and SQL. As one of my colleagues mentioned, you don't learn these skills, you use them. The second one is really important, requesting regular feedback. So in order to progress, what's really helped me is to find out what's working well and what could be better. And so whether it's like asking feedback from my colleagues, team members, or senior management, that's really helped me progress. The third one is looking at books, podcasts, and newsletters. So I find inspiration from everywhere. Sometimes it could be about product management specifically, but also fashion or just generally what's going on in tech, as there's lots of patterns and kind of common trends that occur. And focusing on areas of interest, there was a time where I thought I really needed to learn Python and it would be a great thing, but I realized I don't actually have an interest in it. So rather than like exhausting a lot of effort trying to do that, I thought about what am I really interested in, and I can put my energy there and get much better results. And finally, seeking out new opportunities. So within your role, like your current role, there's often a chance to collaborate with colleagues, get involved with new projects, and that's a way of upskilling ahead of applying for a new role if you're looking to transition into something else.
Oh, thank you, Megan. So, hi everyone, I'm Alex. I am VP of Program Management at Lyst. And before I go into kind of a bit more detail about what that means, a few facts about me. So I'm half Scottish, I'm half English. I grew up in both countries, although I am pretty obsessed with the United States and secretly wish that's where I grew up. But yeah, like love Scotland, love England. I have a really strong Scottish accent when I travel up there. And it kind of immediately disappears as soon as I come back to England again, which is very strange. And I guess like the sort of third and fourth fact are really probably predominantly what defines me. So music is a huge, very important part of my life. But in the last decade or so, I think I've really got into like electronic music, specifically drum and bass. You might notice the decks behind me. I picked up a hobby in lockdown to finally learn how to mix. And so I do that quite a lot now. And I also love sports. I used to play a lot of sport when I was younger. Admittedly, not really at all anymore, but I do watch quite a lot of it. And I guess in terms of a career fact, I started the career path I'm on now in customer services for an online dating company. And actually, my whole career story is from that company and Lyst. So on the next slide is just a nutshell kind of what I do. So I lead the program management office for Lyst, and really my mission is to kind of create the systems, the processes, the frameworks, whatever word you want to use, to help Lyst plan what it is we need to do and deliver on our mission and our goals. And so on the next slide, these are just some of the key things that I'm involved in. So my job really involves me making sure that we are properly set up for teams and people in the company to create strategy, to set our goals, then to obviously plan how we're going to achieve both of those things, and also make sure we can operate, make sure we can deliver. So really kind of all the things, the stories we've heard from around product analysis, product management. My job is to try and help them do what they need to do and get stuff done. My job is to help Lyst get stuff done, pretty much. And really, I sort of help set expectations for each of these things entail, like at a company level, the outputs that people in the company need so that they have all the information and all the context around like the direction that Lyst is heading in, what our strategies are, and really then just getting out of their way and letting them get on with it. My main aim is to keep things as lightweight as possible so that I don't disrupt them from getting things done, which is definitely easier said than done when you need 200 plus people to be aligned on what we need to do, why we need to do it, and by when. So some of the key skills that I definitely try and employ on a day-to-day basis are here, sort of around leadership, communication, stakeholder management, but I'd also definitely add collaboration. Like none of what I do can be done in isolation at all. Like I need a lot of support and feedback and input from the people I work with, be it a member of the CXO, a product manager, an engineer. So yeah, it's definitely a team effort and a lot of support from those people to help me help them. But what I want to talk most about, I suppose, like everyone else, is the journey, how I got here. So I didn't go to university. I was, and I don't have a degree. I was supposed to go to university to study psychology and politics, but I deferred my place for a year and started working at the dating company that I mentioned earlier. And then kind of throughout that year, I started doing reasonably well. I suppose I got quite used to earning a salary and not just living off like college loans. And so I decided to withdraw my place, kind of knowing that, you know, university would always be there if I wanted or needed to go back to it. And these are just a few of my kind of like, I suppose, my official job titles over the years. So, and kind of my progression to this particular role, but ignoring any sort of changes in seniority along the way, like a lot of the roles and the hats that I've worn have been quite varied and actually probably quite consistent throughout each of these jobs. It's just the scope and I guess the focus is what's changed. So, you know, I've been a team lead, a product manager, a project manager, a scrum master. You know, being VP of product management wasn't just about running product for a particular area of the business. I was still very much like a PM for individual teams, and, you know, a coach for other PMs in the business. And the 4 roles in the middle that are sort of highlighted are where I've worked in technology. So I've always worked with back end predominantly, anyway, at least at Lyst, back end engineering teams and data scientists. And for a really long time, I considered myself to be not technical. My team were technical, but I wasn't technical. I was a project manager or a product manager or a scrum master, which wasn't, I was like, no, I'm not the technical person. I'm certainly not the expert anyway. But what I found out was that although, you know, I don't know how to code, I don't necessarily read code, I also don't know SQL. I learned over the years from a lot of watching, listening, asking a ton of questions, and obviously just collaborating with my team, that actually I can understand technical concepts. I can have technical conversations. So, you know, I've learned to understand why maybe something might be more complex than others, why one approach might be better over another, why something might be a blocker. And most importantly, I can explain complex technical problems or concepts to our non-technical stakeholders and really be that like kind of connection with sort of our engineering teams and maybe our more commercial focused teams who aren't as experienced in technology. So actually I am quite technical, and, you know, at the very least, I know how to ask questions so that I understand what's talking about, what they're talking about. And then throughout my career, I sort of just learned what I love and what I wanted to pursue. So my current role is much more operational now and delivery focused. I learned that I love enabling teams and enabling them to have impact and to deliver. And I've been very fortunate to have this sort of opportunity at Lyst. It's a new function and a new team and a very exciting one. And different ways I developed over the years. I suppose these 4 areas I would say are my like typical go-to. So for example, when I transitioned from like customer services into being a junior project manager, this was really because I was learning about my company. I already had some sort of connections with the development team because I would often sort of raise bugs and share feedback from our customers to our engineering team to make sure the product was fit for purpose. And they were looking for a project manager. And it piqued my interest because I really like kind of organization, communication, like that kind of collaborative nature of working. And so I applied for it. And while I didn't have any formal project management training, I think what really helped me was I had a lot of context around our business and on our product and who our customers were. And at that point, I was also a team lead. So I had some experience with kind of management and prioritization and coordination of people, if not projects, with people, sorry, if not projects. And as a result, they then kind of changed the project manager role to a junior project manager role. And then that's when I learned like a lot on the job. So a lot from my peers, a lot from my team members of different disciplines, like asking a lot of questions. I'm sure there was a lot of patience needed at times when I was really first starting out, but being really, really curious. And then I have done some formal training and some courses. Some have been more useful than others in the past. I think I've learned to not do sort of training and qualifications for the sake of it. I've definitely done that in the past, where maybe I thought I should do a particular course and actually found that I've not really ever applied it. I'm sure, I did, obviously I learned things, but I'm not sure if it would have had the same impact, if the impact would have been less if I hadn't have done it. But there have definitely been some things that I've really found really valuable. So I did a course of General Assembly in product management a few years ago, and it was just such a great foundation around kind of the basics of product management, really good early introduction into like customer research, and that really helped me in my role in product. So if ever I want to learn, like go deep into a particular skill, or there is something that I've just got absolutely no experience with, I will definitely look to see what training's out there. But it's certainly not the only kind of avenue that I explore. And then I think it's been mentioned before, like books, blogs, podcasts. Read about things you're interested in, read about things you're not interested in, get recommendations from people as well, because I always find a lot of the podcasts I listen to have all been as a result of recommendations, and I found them really useful and really interesting. And admittedly, some days, weeks, months, I'm far more invested in my own development than others. This certainly isn't an always-on scenario, but these 4 things are definitely things I regularly think back to when I'm having a development conversation with my manager. If I'm having a moment to think about what I want to do short, mid, long term, this is kind of the framework, I guess, that I follow. So that's a little bit about me. On the next slide, I do just want to do a very quick shout out. We are hiring. We're hiring product roles, we're hiring engineering roles. We've got lots of different roles in our non-technical section of the business as well. So please do check us out. And yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about my roles, about my journey. And yeah, looking forward to it. Thank you.
Hey. Thank you so much for all of that. We've had lots of questions come in, which is really good. I'll start with this one because I think it might be quite fresh based on what you were just saying, Alex. Is what podcasts and books would you recommend?
Okay, cool. So, I mean, books, I've got a ton of books. Right, so I'll start with podcasts, because although I'm very late to the party with podcasts, I've only recently started listening properly to them. But there's a product ops podcast. I can't remember the name of it. I might have to have a quick look. But product operation. So I work in quite an operational function now, and product ops is quite a new function that's kind of been realized in like the last couple of years. We've got like business operations, we might have people operations, like product operations is quite a new thing. And there's a really great product ops podcast on Spotify, which talks a lot about interviews a lot of people to talk about how they transitioned from being like an analyst or a product manager or an engineer into this particular function. So I can maybe share a link in the chat once I finish answering the question. I'll find the link and I'll share it. But that's really useful to understand how people transition across different functions and like how they sort out opportunity. In terms of books, there's a really great book called, in fact, I'm just going to grab it here and I'll show you. It's called Inspired: How to Build Products Customers Love. It's by a guy called Marty Cagan. He also writes a blog called the SVPG Silicon Valley Product Group. And this I found when I started out in product management it became a bit like my Bible. So this would be the one that for any product management interest, this one.
Cool, thank you. I'm going to scroll all the way back to the top now. And there's a question for you, Lara. Can you give practical examples of how you use data in your day-to-day life?
Ooh, well, so basically in my specific role in my team, I'm working with product data. So there's several different types of data across the company, and I am in the team that works with product data. So Milena being the current SQL expert, she will pull reports from AWS, like the Amazon Web Services. She'll do SQL to pull a report from there. I'm currently shadowing her with that a bit to learn SQL, and then that gets transported out to Excel. We use Google Sheets, and so then looking at all the products so practical example would be the sizing project is like pulling all the sizes that we get from all the retailers. And so every single size that we get is on an Excel sheet, and then essentially figuring out which formats we're getting them in, and then giving what we want the sizes to be output as in order to use them in order for the whole business to use them. So essentially we need to look at all the formats, and there's a service that we trained on to do AI and machine learning in order to achieve that. So that instead of having, you wouldn't even believe some of the formats that retailers can send sizes in, and then we kind of make that uniformed list size. So yeah, that would be a practical example of how we'd use data.
And I think that question was also for you, Laura, as well. So I don't know if you've got anything else to add on that.
Oh, sorry, me. Yes?
Yeah.
The other Laura? Yes. Yeah, I would say mostly it's around analytics and reporting, and that's the most practical example I can give. Measuring experiment results. And yeah, also just understanding what data we need in order to sort of display dynamic content within our emails and our push notifications, and the data that's needed in order to trigger those communications. Those are all ways in which I'm using data day in, day out.
Cool, thank you. We've got so many questions coming in. I'm like, we've got 25 minutes, which is great. It's great that there's lots of questions. Okay, the next for you, Laura, again, is did you have little knowledge and experience in HTML, CSS, and SQL when you were working in roles that involved utilizing them? So what experience did you have in those languages?
Yeah, the short answer is none. I really learned everything on the job, and I was lucky because I had really good mentors. I was quite junior when I first started in these roles, so I had more senior people that I was learning from who would take the time to explain to me these concepts. And then I did a lot of, just self-teaching, learning online. There's so many resources out there, especially for HTML, CSS, and SQL I got really good at for a long time. I was using it in a very specific function, but I think somebody said this, you really have to be using it constantly in order to maintain it. And so yeah, some of those skills have sort of wavered for me, but it's important, I think, to know that you can learn on the job, and that also you might not be using them forever. So yeah.
Perfect, thank you. I think this is more of a general question for anyone here, and someone's mentioning that they're switching career from marketing and social media to being a software developer, and they've actually just finished doing a boot camp. Their dream is to work in fashion. Should they try to land any experience in a fashion company to help them, progress? To anyone.
I'll give this one a go. So if your dream is to work in fashion, absolutely look for jobs in fashion. I think what's happening at the moment is so many brands and retailers are really investing in their engineering and in their tech. But the great thing about software engineering is that it is so transferable across so many different industries. And so the opportunities are huge. So I would also advise, like, don't narrow your scope to one industry. Like if you find a really great fit for you in another industry that helps you develop and hone your craft, the fashion industry is going to continue investing in engineering, in software development, in technology. That is a fact. And so I would say absolutely look, but certainly don't let that hold you back if you're not seeing the right roles for you at the moment, and you are seeing them in other industries that you also are interested in. Definitely jump on those opportunities too.
Perfect, thank you. And it's interesting because a lot of, I quote, fashion companies will have internal like tech companies. I know Condé Nast has a huge internal tech team. I was working at Stylist magazine, which is fashion and beauty, for like a year. Like a lot of these big companies have internal tech teams. So it's always worth, even though they're not known as a tech company, like it's always worth, Stylist is a magazine, but it's always worth having a look because all of them will have like internal tech teams.
Definitely.
A question for you, Kat. What is the difference between a technical product manager and a product manager?
I would say the main difference is like working with technical products, technical services, and seeing data as a product. So that's like very different, because that means like dealing mostly with internal stakeholders. For example, like us at our team, we provide data service to like other teams that consume this service, so they are our stakeholders. So it's like looking at data and technical products differently and translating all those technicalities into business outcomes and like the other way around.
Perfect, thank you. Another question. Someone started it by going, cheeky question. What criteria makes Lyst a tech company? And again, for anyone I know, yeah.
Do you want me to have another go at this one as well?
I don't know. It's open to anyone.
No, it's a great question. I think we really invest in our technology. Like we've been around for 11 years. 11 years? Yes. And we've always been quite, very product and engineering led. We have engineers pretty much embedded in every team across the business, and so we really value the impact that investing in our engineering efforts can have. So I think that's probably like a main reason why. And then like we're building a really great personalized product for customers, so tons of data science, tons of data engineering, tons of design and front-end engineering. So yeah, I'd say that's probably why. We've got a huge engineering chapter at Lyst.
I think to add on to Alex's point is we are building like a product and a platform. So it's not like anything physical. The entire business is a giant platform.
Perfect, thank you. Next question, and again, this is for anyone. Is it typical within large organizations for a product manager to look after a relatively thin product?
I would say yes. So as an example, sometimes within our teams, there may be a particular page and there may be 3 teams working on that same page. So it might be, let's say, a checkout feature. It could be like a filter feature. So yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Next question. What's our next question? We've asked the podcast one. Oh, okay. Again, I think this is for anyone, but maybe more so for you, Alex. What kind of engineering roles are you hiring? The big question.
Loads. I actually spotted that one. I've got our careers page up ready to go. I mean, we're looking for like analytics engineers, backend engineers for different teams. We have a data tribe essentially, so that really work on building data as a product for the company. So lots of backend engineers of different levels as well. More junior all the way up to really senior roles. Definitely have a look at like lyst.com/careers. We've got a full list there. There's also really cool videos about what it's like to work at Lyst as well, if you want to get to know us and our culture a bit more. But yeah, analytics engineers, backend engineers, across our checkout products, our data products, our app, our enrichments team as well, who Kat, Lara, and Milena work on. I think we're hiring in web growth as well, where Megan works, Laura works in app. So yeah, literally the whole spectrum of Lyst, we are looking for software engineers. So go take a look.
The next question, I think it is again for you, Alex, which is, do you advise taking Scrum Master certifications if you want to pursue a Scrum Master career? If so, which one would you recommend? But can you just start by explaining what Scrum is? Because there's a few people here that may not know what it is, particularly if you're not in tech. Like for me, Scrum is a very like tech thing. And so, you know, we've got a lot of people coming into tech. So yeah, if you could just explain what it is and then, you know, answer the question.
So Scrum in a nutshell is a way of delivering technical projects, essentially. So what it prioritizes is sort of collaboration, communication, and iteration. So it doesn't prioritize kind of like planning really big projects up front. Say you've got a 6-month-long project. What Scrum enables you to do is break that down into manageable chunks, so that as a team you can always you can iterate on the product that you're building. So you collaborate maybe on 2-week cycles rather than these big 6-month cycles, and it enables the control for quality, communication, collaboration, and it's just a very effective way of delivering projects. There are many sort of different, it's actually under the umbrella term of like agile development methodologies. There's lots of different ways of doing that as well. Scrum is just a particular theory, I suppose, that's very popular and a lot of companies follow. I could talk about it for hours, but hopefully we'll just maybe
maybe we need a whole other session on Scrum.
And you know, we don't follow it sort of textbook or anything. I think the key thing about any kind of agile development methodology is to adopt the principles. So what is the value that Scrum is trying to bring, and using it in a way that best fits your teams to have impact, essentially. So that's quite a buzzwordy way of describing it. But so a Scrum Master is a role in Scrum. A Scrum Master is kind of the equivalent of the project manager. They help assist with delivery. They help the team. They help unblock the team. So if the team is coming across challenges, blockers, requirements aren't clear, you know, any of those kind of challenges to delivery, one of the key parts of their role is to unblock the team and make sure that they have what they need to deliver. And there are the Scrum Alliance in particular does a Scrum Master certification. They also do one to product owner and Scrum and Agile coaches. I would say you don't need it. There will be some companies that will require it, and that's fine. That's their choice. I have done it myself. I did an advanced Scrum Master one, which actually I found a bit more useful. It went into more detail of you know, like more real world examples of what it's like to run teams. And I didn't need my certification to do that. I did that first and then I got my certification. So I would say it's not essential. Like I say, I think it would be personal choice. It does give you a good grounding, a good foundation into what Scrum is and what being a Scrum Master is. But there are also lots of resources online. There might be some free courses as well, where you can really like actually get quite a good grounding. And then you might want to consider certification if it's really key to the path that you want to go on.
Perfect. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, Mercedes. Next question. What are the top 3 transferable skills you look for within a person joining your team? And again, this could be for anyone here. So the top 3 transferable skills. I don't know. Milena, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I guess we've mentioned most of the skills that, you know, you can have in any job basically. So either if you're like very technical or like you're very much non-technical. I think we've mentioned communication, collaboration, like curiosity is like, even, I don't know if it's like really a skill, it's just, you know, a state of mind. So I think these are some of the things that are like very much top things that you could have in any job and transfer them.
Thank you. Does anyone else have anything to add that's different or anything before we move on to the next question? No? Okay, perfect. Okay, next question. Oh, someone has said they're about to start a computer science MS for next year, but they've already self-studied SQL plus 4 more coding languages and love data in general. Would they be able to apply or start work now in some sort of role with that experience? I can see a few heads nodding. Yep, yep.
Of course, we have many associate roles, and everyone's welcome to apply.
Nice. So apply. Nice, nice. Oh, we've got lots of good book recommendations. That's good. Oh, okay. When do you know if you have enough experience to move to a senior product manager role?
Kat, do you want to talk from experience as being a recently promoted senior product manager?
Yes,
perfect.
I would say at least it's very easy to work this out because we have like very, very clear career ladders. It's very well defined, so I know what is expected of me, and plus like my manager that it happens to be Alex, is like very transparent about this, so I exactly know where I'm going. I exactly know what I need to improve. I receive regular feedback, so I would say it's very easy. But in terms of like switching organization and like transferring from being like product manager to senior product manager like somewhere else, that's like I would say just apply and give it a go, and you know, sell your experience and skills, and you can make it. But at least it's great. And
perfect answer. Okay. Oh, okay. Someone has said they're making the transition from QA to product manager. They feel like they have the right skills, apart from experience, and a keen learning mindset is needed to land the role. Are there any volunteering opportunities that anyone here knows about that can help get them that experience in product management?
I would say QA person would make amazing technical product manager. Definitely lots of transferable skills and already this technical mindset, and it's just a matter of like learning about the role and maybe doing some courses, not necessarily paid courses, like reading some good books. I would recommend like Strategize by Roman Pilcher, listen to some podcasts, and you can definitely make it. Maybe you would like to try applying for like junior role at first and then see how it goes. Another idea would be to maybe start at first with like analyst role, which is again perfect combination because that's like closest to product, like product analyst, and then transition from there to product role. It'd be brilliant.
There may also be an opportunity to consider moving internally if you're happy with your companies. You have like the product that you're working on, and you have the skills, so that might be something to consider.
Perfect. Does anyone else have anything to add before we move on to the next question? No. Someone has said the best way to approach Lyst as a junior dev, but I can see an email has been dropped in, so that's super useful. And also we've got our dedicated junior dev board, job board, so hopefully we can get a few jobs listed on there too as well, which would be amazing, and then we can share them directly with our community. So that's all of our questions so far that have been answered. Does anyone have any others before we wrap up? Okay, well, huge thank you to everyone from Lyst today for coming along. It's been hugely appreciated, hugely valuable, hugely informative, and I've taken a lot from this, and I'm sure everyone else has as too. Huge thank you, everyone, and a huge thank you to everyone from Lyst as well for coming along.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.